Well, talk to me a little bit about how you grew up, Zakk, because it's interesting to me. Like, you grew up on the East Coast, obviously, and a lot of your early influences are, the obvious, the Sabbaths, the Zeppelins, and even fusion stuff, because you got into, like, Al Di Meola and stuff like that early on, I think. But what were your, like, early memories of music growing up and your first records that you bought?
When I discovered I wanted, play music the rest of my life, when I hit high school, it was taking guitar lessons from Leroy Wright. And he was a great teacher, just because he would teach me the songs I wanted to learn, whether it's Sabbath or Zeppelin or AC/DC or anything. But he would always, then he'd teach me the theory behind it, like, looking at a whole bunch of car parts and an engine laid out on the ground. It's overwhelming. But, once you show me why this part connects with this part and this part, you need to put this part with here and how it all breaks down, and so you could speak the language.
So you learned music theory growing up, or not really? Was it
Yeah,
more
without
just
a doubt.
based
So with my scales and everything like that. So and then you learn your fretboard. You know what I mean? So it was just that I just always thought it was just so interesting and everything like that, scales and everything like that. So I still do to this day. It's just awesome. Whatever it is that you like and you have passion for, and whatever it is you love doing, then that's what you got to do, because that's the only way you're going to excel, and it's the only way you're going to find happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
It'd be like, it's just the truth. I mean, it's just like trying to tell Al Di Meola he should be doing pop music or so, and he's just like, but I don't want to do that. I mean, this is what I want to play, jazz or whatever, fusion and stuff like that. So
was it Zeppelin or was it Sabbath that really got you into the first records you bought? What were they actually?
Well, I mean, actually, the first thing was Elton John.
Oh, wow, okay.
Seeing him on Lucy in the Sky, doing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And then I remember our next door neighbors, the Smiths. They had 11 kids, 6 boys, 5 girls, all out of Mrs. Smith. And the running joke would always be, are they Catholic? And it's just like, yes, yes, they are. That's where I discovered, classic rock and everything like that, just because Scott's older brothers.
Yeah.
Dougie and all, and then it's just nothing but great times over there. But I'm as far as the music and everything like that, yeah, it was Elton John first, and then after that was I remember I discovered Sabbath, just because I remember we were in art class doing a skull, just like pretty much like Scully with Black Label, the jawless skull.
Yeah.
And he had a lightning bolt going through, and it said Black Sabbath 666 or whatever. And I was just like, oh, what's that? That's cool. And he just goes, cool. He goes, oh, it's this band my older brother listens to. And I was like, I had never heard Black Sabbath before, never anything like that. So I remember we were at the mall or whatever. My mother was just like, you can get a record if you want a record. So I ended up we sold our soul for rock and roll, because obviously it's a double album.
Yeah,
right. I had to be a complete scumbag and slide that one in. You know what I mean? So. But all I remember is opening up the gatefold with the woman in the coffin and everything like that, and then like putting the album on, being completely terrified when I listened to this album.
Yeah, it was terrifying. Even the gatefold when you opened it up. I mean, the
totally.
records are.
So the running joke is like when I had to introduce Sabbath for a Lifetime Achievement Award or something like that, And so when I said, well, when I put the album on, I was Catholic, and then. As I was listening more and more to the album, by the time I got to the second disc, I was a full-blown Satanist. And then when I got done listening to the album, I had converted back to Catholicism just so I could thank God for creating Black Sabbath. So,
did you ever thought that when you were younger that you would end up playing with Ozzy, right? Because it's such an incredible feat to,
it was just so, it's just so weird. I mean, my story being with Ozzy, just like, it'd be like me being a huge New York Yankee fan, and I love Thurman Munson, and now I'm catching for the New York Yankees in the same spot where my hero stood.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's just a pretty mind-blowing thing. Of like all the franchises I could have been with, I ended up on the team that I love.
Yeah, definitely.
So
walk me through that story, Zakk, because it's interesting. So you had your bands in high school, obviously, and I believe that when they were auditioning guitar players, Ozzy saw like an 8x10 of you in his kitchen, and was like, this guy looks like he obviously is a huge fan of Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, no, he had my sister took a Polaroid picture of me on my parents' house, and I ended up I gave that to Dave Feld, who gave it to Mark Weiss, the legendary photographer, Father Mark. So, Mark, got it to Mom. It's just a little package of me jamming on, playing a bunch of Ozzy things and some classical guitar or whatever. But then, and that Polaroid. And Ozzy said he remembered the weird thing was he didn't look at any of the packages or anything. It was just on the kitchen table. And he looked at it. He said, "Oh, look at this kid. Obviously he loves Randy Rhoads."
Yeah.
So, which I do, still do. So
course.
we all do.
Yeah.
But
Well, when you get that call and someone says,
so like when I
audition
was
for
there,
me.
Ozzy was like, "Have I met you before?" And I was like, "Well, maybe unless he saw us, at the Garden with Jakey Lee on the
Right.
Park at the Moon tour or whatever,
under the bleachers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, under the mezzanine or whatever, So, and I was like, "No." And then he looked back on it. He goes, "Zakk," he goes, "It was that picture." He goes, "Because that was the only one that I looked at."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh, well, look at this kid. Obviously he loves Randy." So, but no, that was about it. And then when I met Ozzy, he was just like, "Well, Zakk," he goes, "Listen, just play with your heart. And then after that, make me a ham sandwich and go light on the Coleman's mustard. I don't want it to overpower the flavor of the sandwich." So I've been, ever since that day, I've been making ham sandwiches for him and going light on the Coleman's. You don't want it to overpower the sandwich.